deep in an overcast jungle. One man sets out to build a permanent camp before the heavy rains turn the forest floor into a swamp. Survival in this saturated environment demands immediate shelter. He begins by harvesting fresh green bamboo. The thick, rigid stalks provide an ideal load-bearing material, combining the compressive strength of hardwood with a fraction of the weight. Fresh bamboo contains high moisture content, making it flexible enough to resist snapping under stress. Every swing of the machete must be deliberate. An angled strike bites deeply into the fibers, conserving the builder's energy for the grueling days ahead. The foundation of a reliable rain shelter relies entirely on geometric stability. By sinking the main vertical poles directly into the muddy earth, he anchors the structure against sudden wind gusts. He then lashes the intersecting points with flexible green vines to form a classic A-frame. This triangular shape is inherently rigid, distributing downward forces evenly across both legs. The vines themselves act as natural tension bands. When pulled taut and knotted securely, they bite into the smooth outer wall of the bamboo, locking the joints without a single nail. In a landscape dominated by relentless humidity, metal hardware would inevitably rust and fail. Plant fibers, naturally adapted to the damp environment, offer a more resilient solution for binding the skeletal frame. The steep angle of the A-frame is no accident. It guarantees that heavy tropical downpours will slide rapidly off the sides. With the primary A-frame locked in place, lateral stability becomes the next priority. A single heavy gust hitting a flat surface can easily collapse an unbraced structure. To prevent this, he adds horizontal crossbeams, effectively tying the vertical ribs together into a unified, rigid cage. Thin strips of bamboo serve as heavy-duty cordage here. When freshly harvested, the outer skin of the bamboo stalk can be shaved into flat ribbons that possess incredible tensile strength. Wrapping these strips tightly around the intersections binds the crossbeams to the main supports. As the green bamboo ribbons dry over the coming days, they will shrink and harden. This natural contraction essentially clamps the joints in a permanent grip, creating a frame capable of supporting the heavy weight of a wet, thatched roof. The skeleton is now complete. a bare frame provides no defense against the incoming weather. The surrounding forest, however, offers an abundance of broad, fan-shaped palm leaves perfectly evolved to shed water. Harvesting these massive fronds requires precision to avoid damaging the central stalk, which acts as the spine of the natural shingle. He works systematically, gathering enough material to completely enclose the triangular frame. In the wild, efficiency is a matter of survival. Transporting large bundles minimizes the number of trips across the uneven, energy-draining forest floor. Thatching always begins from the ground up. By laying the lowest course of leaves first, he ensures that each subsequent row overlaps the one beneath it. This overlapping acts exactly like modern roofing tiles, allowing rain to cascade down the exterior without ever seeping through the gaps. Weaving the stems of the palm fronds directly into the bamboo crossbeams locks the natural tiles in place. He pushes the rigid stalks firmly behind the horizontal supports, using the friction of the dense leaves to anchor the roofing layer. The steep pitch of the A-frame accelerates the runoff, ensuring water never pools and rots the organic material. This design also creates a localized microclimate inside the shelter. The thick layers of broad leaves trap radiant body heat while simultaneously blocking the damp chill of the surrounding forest. Every gap must be meticulously covered to block out the relentless wind. A single structural flaw could mean a soaking wet, freezing night. From the outside, the finished lean-to blends seamlessly into the dense undergrowth, providing a secure, camouflaged haven hidden beneath the towering jungle canopy. A static camp on muddy ground has its limits. To truly utilize the environment, the builder shifts his focus to the flowing stream, beginning construction on a floating base. Moving water offers a reliable highway, a steady food source, and natural isolation from ground-dwelling predators. He aligns thick, hollow bamboo poles side by side in the shallow current. The hollow internodes of the bamboo act as sealed air chambers, providing immense natural buoyancy. Shaving thin, flexible strips from the green bamboo yields a ready supply of waterproof cordage. This lashings material must withstand constant submersion without rotting or weakening. By working directly in the water, he avoids the impossible task of dragging a heavy, fully assembled raft down the steep banks. The integrity of the raft depends entirely on the strength of its cross members. Lashing a perpendicular bamboo pole across the floating deck prevents the individual logs from rolling or shifting under a shifting load. He uses the freshly shaved bamboo ribbons to tightly bind every intersection, pulling the fibers taut against the smooth bark. The wet environment actually aids this process, keeping the binding strips pliable and less prone to snapping under tension. Each knot is a critical anchor point. If one fails, the entire deck could separate in deeper water. The design mimics a rigid grid, converting a loose collection of floating poles into a stable platform. This flat deck will eventually support not just his weight, but an entire elevated living structure. The gentle flow of the stream constantly tests the alignment, acting as a natural level. By assembling the base in its final element, he ensures the raft is perfectly balanced before committing to the heavy superstructure of buck. With the deck secured, he moves to construct a protective cabin directly on the floating platform. He crouches low on the raft, interlacing thin, pliable bamboo slats to form dense, woven wall panels. This basket weaving technique creates a surprisingly rigid surface that is both lightweight and highly breathable. The alternating tension of the over and under weave locks the strips together, requiring very little cordage to hold its shape. A solid wall of thick wood would make the raft dangerously top-heavy. But these woven mats offer shelter from the wind without adding excessive mass. Once the panel is complete, he presses it firmly against the vertical support poles. Securing the walls requires meticulous lashing, tying the woven mats to the rigid frame to prevent them from buckling. The shelter slowly takes form, rising above the water level as a floating fortress. The walls serve a dual purpose, blocking the harsh elements while providing a structural cage that adds overall stiffness to the cabin. Every lashing on the floating cabin must be pulled extremely tight to counteract the continuous rocking motion of the water. The flexibility of the woven bamboo walls allows the structure to absorb the subtle bending and twisting of the raft without fracture. As he crouches inside the partially enclosed space, the logic of the design becomes clear. The woven panels create a distinct barrier against the surrounding jungle, transforming a simple deck into a secure, floating world. He ties off the final knots with practiced precision, checking the tension of each strip. The structural strength of a woven mat lies in the complex friction of hundreds of intersecting points. A single loose tie could allow a wall to sag under the weight of a heavy roof. The open roof frame now waits for its finishing layer, standing sturdy against the quiet backdrop of the moving stream. To finish the floating cabin, he layers wide, durable palm fronds over the upper framework, establishing a waterproof canopy. Weaving the stems directly into the bamboo rafters ensures the heavy thatch won't blow away during a sudden squall. Overlapping the thick green leaves creates a dense shingle effect, shedding rainfall perfectly over the woven walls and into the stream below. Sitting high, he adjusts the underside of the thatch, inspecting for any small gaps where sunlight or water might penetrate. The completed roof transforms the open raft into a cozy, shadowed refuge, fully protected from the harsh midday sun and unpredictable jungle downpours. Standing on the finished deck, the builder surveys the result of his labor. The structure is remarkably stable, the tightly lashed bamboo poles absorbing his shifting weight with ease. He takes up a long, smooth bamboo pole to act as a rudimentary paddle and push stick. Crouching slightly to lower his center of gravity, he tests the buoyancy and balance of the fully loaded raft. Pushing off the shallow, rocky bottom, he guides the floating shelter across the clear water. The hollow bamboo chambers displace enough water to keep the heavy cabin riding high. Moving effortlessly along the current, the raft proves its worth, offering a mobile, dry sanctuary isolated from the mud and insects of the dense forest floor. A camp is not a home without fire, and bringing fire onto a wooden raft requires careful engineering. Inside the dim, shaded shelter, he arranges 5 smooth, dark river stones directly on the bamboo floor. These dense rocks act as a critical thermal barrier, isolating the intense heat of the impending fire from the highly combustible bamboo slats beneath them. The charring already visible on the floor indicates that this hearth has been tested, proving the stones can successfully absorb and radiate the heat safely. Stepping back onto the rocky bank, he processes a thick piece of bamboo, slicing it into long, thin strips. These dry, fibrous pieces will serve as the perfect kindling. Harvesting resources from the immediate shoreline, minimizes the distance he has to carry materials. Returning to the floating cabin, the contrast between the wild, damp jungle outside and the dry, organized space inside is striking. The shelter provides a controlled environment, essential for the delicate task of fire starting. The dense stones of the hearth will not only protect the floor, but will also capture the fire's thermal energy, releasing it slowly into the enclosed space long after the flames have burned down. Sitting comfortably on the clean bamboo floor, the builder transitions to the fine work of preparing his timber. He uses a sharp knife to shave incredibly thin, feathery ribbons from a piece of dry bamboo. These delicate shavings maximize the surface area exposed to the air, making them highly receptive to a single spark. The peaceful, methodical scraping echoes softly against the woven walls. With his materials organized, he strikes a faro rod, showering molten sparks directly into the nest of bamboo fibers. A tiny ember catches immediately. He blows gently, providing a steady stream of oxygen that feeds the glowing core until it bursts into a bright flame. The shelter quickly fills with a warm, flickering light and a light haze of wood smoke, driving away any lingering insects. Carefully adding larger, dry twigs, he builds the fire within the protective boundary of the river stones. The hearth contains the blaze perfectly, while the smoke drifts up and out through the breathable woven walls. The raft is now equipped with the vital element of heat. With the fire crackling safely in the hearth, he sets to work, carving a delicate wooden mechanism. The focused task requires precision and patience, qualities essential for long-term survival. Tying a thin cord to the intricately shaped bamboo piece, he completes a handmade fishing rig. The ability to manufacture specialized tools directly from the environment reduces reliance on carried gear. Moving to the edge of the raft, he casts his line into the clear, slow-moving stream. The floating shelter now serves as an ideal, elevated fishing platform, providing stealth and reach over the deeper pools. The water offers a vital source of protein, essential for maintaining energy during heavy construction. Sitting quietly by the warm fire, waiting for a bite, the builder has successfully integrated his camp into the ecosystem. The raft is no longer just a shelter. It is a mobile hunting blind, a kitchen, and a warm hearth suspended safely above the rushing current. the ambition scales up as the builder prepares to conquer the stream itself. He hikes into a dense grove of giant bamboo, seeking out the oldest, thickest stalks for a massive structural project. Using his machete, he carves deep, rectangular notches into the tough out wall of the green bamboo. This precise felling technique weakens the stalk just enough to control the direction of the fall without splitting the valuable timber. It requires immense physical effort to hack through the dense, fibrous material. He pulls the towering stalk down, gravity doing the final work of breaking the hinge. These heavy, wide diameter poles are incredibly strong, capable of spanning the rocky streambed without sagging under heavy foot traffic. Moving the massive materials requires dragging them through the dense thicket and down into the water. Standing in the cool stream with the heavy timber, he begins the grueling process of moving the foundation pieces into place for a permanent bridge crossing. Constructing a stable bridge deck over moving water requires massive, uniform support beams. He aligns the thick, green bamboo poles side by side, resting them securely against a large, dark boulder that serves as a natural anchor point. The boulder acts as an immovable abutment, resisting the lateral force of the flowing stream and keeping the bridge locked in position. Using his machete, he trims the rough edges and clears the nodes, ensuring the poles lie perfectly flat against each other. A flush fit prevents dangerous gaps and creates an even, walkable surface. Checking the alignment of every log is critical. A single warped pole could destabilize the entire platform. He presses down firmly on the assembled logs, using his own body weight to test for any weakness or shifting. The rigid tabular surface of the bamboo easily supports the load, distributing the downward pressure across the width of the stream. The deck forms a solid, unyielding path over the rushing water. Stacked bamboo on the rocky bank waits for the next phase, as the basic foundation of the crossing is fully established. The To lock the loose poles into a permanent structural deck, the builder must lash every piece together tightly. He lays the heavy green stalks side by side across the gap, forming a solid, uninterrupted walkway above the clear, shallow water. The ends of the bamboo rest heavily against the large, mossy boulders, utilizing the natural terrain as a stable foundation. Trimming the ends with a machete ensures the bridge fits cleanly against the muddy bank without overhanging and causing a tripping hazard. Crouching low over the water, he utilizes thin, highly flexible strips of shaved bamboo to bind the logs. He weaves the strong fibers under and over the thick poles, pulling with significant force to lock the joints tight. This continuous lashing acts like a giant clamp, holding the individual logs together as a single unified slab. The tight binding prevents the poles from rolling underfoot when wet, anchoring the lashings securely against the side of the deck near the boulder guarantees. The bridge won't drift downstream during sudden surges in water level. The dense green forest looks on as the crossing becomes a rigid, permanent fixture of the landscape. A bare bridge deck becomes dangerously slick in the relentless tropical rain. To protect the walkway and create a dry crossing, he harvests massive, vibrant green banana leaves to serve as a massive waterproof canopy. These enormous fronds have evolved to shed torrential downpours rapidly, making them the ultimate natural roofing material. Carrying heavy bundles of the broad leaves through the forest requires careful balance, preserving their wide surface area from tearing on the thick brush. Arriving at the bridge framework, he begins layering the slick leaves over the overhead rafters. He starts from the lowest edge and works upward, creating a heavily overlapped shingle effect. This dense layering ensures that heavy rainwater will cascade cleanly off the sides rather than seeping through to the deck below. The smooth, waxy surface of the banana leaf is highly hydrophobic, repelling moisture instantly. Using his machete, he cleanly trims the hanging excess, giving the roof a sharp, uniform edge. The completed canopy transforms the simple crossing into a sheltered tunnel, guarding the bamboo walkway from rot and providing a dry haven suspended over the rushing stream. Back inside the shelter, the focus shifts from heavy timber construction to intricate micro-engineering. Sitting calmly, he begins weaving a conical bamboo basket, a crucial tool for foraging, storing food, and organizing small supplies. He trims the rigid vertical spokes of the frame, establishing the circular rim of the container. The process requires immense patience and dexterity, interlacing thin, pale bamboo strips over and under the rigid uprights. By pulling the horizontal weavers tight, he slowly builds a dense, durable mesh. This ancient technique relies entirely on the friction and tension of the interwoven materials to hold the shape, requiring absolutely no adhesives or external cordage. The woven walls are incredibly lightweight yet structurally rigid, capable of carrying heavy loads of wet clay, foraged roots, or caught fish without collapsing. The top-down perspective reveals the beautiful geometric precision of the overlapping layers. Working quietly in the shaded refuge, the rushing water outside provides a steady, calming rhythm. He holds the finished piece up to inspect the weave. A well-crafted basket elevates survival from a chaotic struggle to a state of organized control. Looking up through the dense, leafy canopy above the shelter, the overcast sky hints at incoming weather. But with his supplies now secure and a means to carry resources, he is fully prepared to wait out the storm. The final upgrade to the permanent camp involves creating a solid floor and a permanent cooking hearth. The builder crouches in the shallow stream, aligning thick bamboo poles side by side to build a raised, level platform inside the shelter. Elevating the floor above the damp earth keeps his gear dry, provides insulation against the cold ground, and prevents insects from easily invading the sleeping area. He carefully presses each green pole flush against the next, lashing them securely to the underlying frame to prevent them from rolling. To add structural borders and aesthetic contrast, he incorporates segments of thick, light-colored bamboo alongside deep, purple-hued poles. Using a large knife, he slices precise flat edges on the bamboo to ensure a perfect fit, then carves a small wooden peg to act as a hidden fastener. The floor becomes a beautiful, solid deck, isolated entirely from the muddy bank. The centerpiece of this new floor is the permanent hearth. He packs damp, heavy soil tightly into a rectangular bamboo frame set directly into the deck. This thick layer of packed earth acts as a massive thermal insulator, completely protecting the combustible bamboo floor from the intense heat of a campfire. He smooths the dirt surface flat, creating a safe, non-flammable base. The mud will bake hard over time, transforming into a durable ceramic pad. The shelter is now a fully functional, insulated cabin, complete with a safe, integrated cooking area. The culmination of a month's hard labor comes down to the ignition of the final hearth. The builder carefully arranges small, bone-dry twigs and fine wood shavings into the center of the newly packed mud fire pit. Preparation is the most critical phase of firecraft. Without an abundance of highly combustible tinder, a spark is useless. Sitting on a by rock, he uses the sharp spine of his knife to scrape down a piece of dry wood, producing a pile of microscopic, fluffy fibers. These delicate shavings will catch even the coolest spark and provide the initial burst of heat needed to ignite the larger twigs. He returns to the hearth and strikes a heavy ferro rod with his steel blade, showering the tinder nest in a spray of molten sparks. The fibers instantly smolder. He leans in close, blowing gently and steadily into the core of the heat. The added oxygen accelerates the combustion, turning the glowing red ember into a sudden bright yellow flame. Almost immediately, white smoke begins to rise, drifting upward and filtering seamlessly through the dense banana leaf roof. The canopy traps the heat while allowing the exhaust to escape, preventing the shelter from filling with choking smoke. The fire pit works exactly as engineered, containing the blaze safely upon the bed of packed earth. As the flames grow, he patiently feeds the fire with thicker branches, building a sustainable, hot coal bed. The heat radiating from the mud hearth warms the entire interior of the woven cabin, driving out the deep chill and dampness of the surrounding jungle. Sitting cross-legged on the smooth, sturdy bamboo floor, the builder finally rests. The glow of the fire illuminates the intricate weaving of the walls and the heavy overlapped layers of the leaf roof. Every knot, every cut, and every perfectly aligned pole represents a massive expenditure of time and energy. But the payoff is absolute security. The thick mud of the fire pit bakes under the intense heat, hardening into a permanent fireproof bowl that will last for years. This is no longer a temporary survival bivouac. It is a fortified, comfortable home engineered from raw wilderness. Out here, safety lasts only as long as awareness does. But tonight, the elements are held firmly at bay. The shelter now works with the hillside instead of against it, roof from the forest canopy, walls from the woven stalks, and heat radiating from the earthen core. Instead of forcing the environment to adapt, he aligned the structure with the environment. A place of absolute quiet,